Time now to continue my chat with the man who's done everything, an all-round entertainer, but we're concentrating on his jazz exploits. It's Bev Pegg, and we heard from him in the first hour, and we'll be hearing from him again next week. We're up now to the swinging 60s.
About 1960, I started getting gigs with big bands then, Brian Pearsall's band and people like that, Dudley Town Hall. Yeah. And then we started going, but the trad boom started then in about 59, 60, 61. And in 1960, we all started going up to the Norton Stomp in Stourbridge. And the Rock Island Jazzmen were on then. And Gordon Whitworth, Les Williams on clarinet, Harry Townsend on trombone, and Barry Norman on drums, who'd been with George Huxley for great young chaps then. Gordon said that was his first proper gig,
Oh, right,
and it was great, and everybody was bopping around, and picking the birds up and that sort of thing, So this is where the action is, this is, At that time, Duncan had just come down from Rotherham, Duncan Swift, because his father had got a job in the steel industry at Round Oak Steelworks in Brierley Hill. Mm. He was a manager there or something. And so Duncan came and didn't know anybody hardly. And I remember one of my pals, Adrian, said to me, "Have you met Duncan? Come and meet him, he's mad." And so we sort of clicked and we all got around the crowd, and then he realised I played pretty good guitar to some extent, and then and when I heard him play the piano, I thought, "Oh my God, what's this?" And I mean, my parents always were very classical people, and all the pianists that I'd played with, they thought, "Oh, he's all right," But then Duncan sat down at my dad's Steinway Grand one afternoon when he came to our house, and he started to play, and my parents said, "What's this?" And of course he could play everything, classical, you name it,
And he was as good then as he was later, was he?
His technique at the age of 18 was staggering, And I mean, I can remember besides starting the Blue Blood Jazzmen at Stourport Boat Club in April 1961, because Duncan wanted to form a band. And I said, "Right, great." So he said, him and me, and he knew a clarinet player, Rick Vaughan, and we'd we'll get a band together. And then we got Alan Jones on drums, who's still playing now. And then Eric Harris on bass, Frank Rogers on trumpet, and Duncan played trombone because they hadn't got a piano.
Yes, of course he did, that's right.
Yeah, and so off we went. And the Vic Sims, the promoter, said if we get a decent crowd, he'd make it a regular gig. Well, we crammed the place within from the day one. I would imagine today they'd only allow 80 or 90 people in that room, but there must have been 150, and the floor was going up and down. And today they'd think it's going to crash.
So when was this? What year was this? Roundabout.
It started in April 1961 at the Boat Club.
Early 60s then.
And then obviously with Duncan playing the piano, which he'd wanted to play, and not being able to play at the Boat Club, we just wanted to play, you see. We were young chaps, keen, never mind the money, we'll get what we can, So we used to go around as a trio. There was Duncan and myself and Phil Lawless, who played double bass. And we did trio interval spots at the Crown at Stourport and Perry Hall on a Monday night. And I mean, going to these places, Perry Hall, I remember seeing George Huxley's band for the first time and meeting Derek Halford, who played trombone, great trombones with him, and saw George Huxley's band. I was absolutely swept off my feet by looking at his vocalist, Diana Day, who's been dead some time now, but she was the ultimate jazz vocalist. She sang Bessie Smith numbers. Diana Day would just stand there and just glance at you with her eyes and ooze sex, and she was wonderful, a wonderful singer. And she made a big impression. And then George Huxley, he must have liked my playing, and so when his banjoist was away, I did his deb jobs, and then I ended up doing deb jobs with the Second City Jazzmen in Midland, at the Midland Jazz Club. And Duncan and myself and Phil played an interval spot at the Crown at Stourport one Tuesday night, and Bill Niles' Delta Jazzmen were on there. And Bill came up to Vic Sims, the promoter, and then to Duncan, and asked if Duncan wanted to go pro with them, you see, because he wanted a pianist. And he said to Duncan, "And what about your mate on the guitar? Does he fancy coming as well, you know?" Oh, well, I was so keen, you know, but I thought, well, I got my daytime job. And I mentioned it to my dad, and, you know, he said, "My lad," he said, you stick to your proper job and do it for enjoyment and get it as a hobby. You'll be better off in the end." So I took his advice, and it was the best advice I ever had, to be honest with you.
I got the blues, I feel so lonely. I'd give the world if I could only make you understand.
The Blue Blood Jasmine that we had, when we started off, it was great because with Duncan there, I mean, he was pushing with the sort of tunes we did, and we did a few rehearsals to start with, and we did things like Black Bottom Stomp and original Dixieland One Step, Fidgety Feet and Chimes Blues, and all those that are a bit more complex than you know the bands play today, you know, and it was great, you know. But of course, when Duncan left to join Bill Nile, we started getting depths in good depths and things like that. But then you know this depth couldn't make it, like Gordon Whitworth couldn't make it this one week because he was playing the so-so, or Derek couldn't with it, and so it became a sort of jam type band, and then all those arrangements went out of the window, and the standard stuff like Indiana, Dr. Jones, they came in, you know. It was still okay, but then gradually it dies, and everything does, you know. And then the Beatles came out, and then the trad boom, the crowd started dropping, and then I mean, I left before that actually, because in November or December 1963, that was about 21, not quite 2 years into the band, Ken Rattenbury rang me up out of the blue, and would I like to join his band, you see. So I joined Ken's band, and he was the most inspiring musician, you know, the most underrated trumpeter in British jazz, without any doubt. I remember when Joe Lees, who plays clarinet with him, he played clarinet. In fact, Joe Lees, I played with him at the trumpet the other day. He's 89, but he still plays Benny Goodman clarinet like nobody's business. And but he had to pick up Wild Bill Davidson, who was playing with Ken's band backing him. I wasn't on that gig, but Ken's band backed Wild Bill at this one gig, and everything went well. The following year, Wild Bill came over to England again. Joe picked him up from the station in New Street, Birmingham, and when he got in the car, Wild Bill said to Joe Lees, he said, "Is that goddamn trumpeter on again?" Because everything he played, Ken Roderick could play. You know, and if he hit a high note, Ken would hit one a third higher. You know, incredible player he was. Yeah. And I mean, he was a full-time bank manager, so he didn't really push himself like he could, you know, Ken Roddenberry.
Right.
But most wonderful musician. I learnt a lot from him because when we were playing in his band, we'd do all sorts of gigs. We'd do jazz club gigs, but we'd also do a lot of dinner dance gigs at Walsall Golf Club and places like that, and town halls and everything. And I'd be with my guitar behind the band, and he'd just turn around and put three fingers down, and in other words, I'd know the next song is in E flat, but I haven't got a clue what it is, and off they'd go with it. And you have to learn quickly that way. So
yeah, of course you do.
It gives you, as a result, I had quite a good ear, you know, before my hearing started going, to pick up tunes, you know, and it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Really was.
Ken Rattenry and his band, plus guest trombonist Bill Rank, yes, the same one that played with Paul Whiteman, at the Crown and Cushion, Perry Bar, lovely name for a pub, the Crown and Cushion, Perry Bar, Birmingham, 23rd of June 1969. And it was at the Jazz Band Ball, of course. Ken Rattenbury was on trumpet. Joe Lees played clarinet and saxophone. Derek Halford, wasn't on trombone. Well, yes, he was. No, he wasn't on trombone on that one. Bill Rank played trombone, so presumably Derek Halford stood down for that number. Anyway, Stan Tinkler was on piano. What a wonderful name for a pianist. Bev Pegg on guitar. Harry Hadley played double bass. Les Handley on drums. And, as I say, Bill Rank on trombone. At the Jazz Band Ball it was. And there will be more from Bev Pegg next week, and also more of the same sort of music as well from some of the stuff that he's recorded over the years.